All right, we're not done with TV yet, though. Glenn might have touched on this earlier, but the question is, when will TVs be replaced in the rest of the Saratoga Clubhouse? Nobody can read or see the ones in sections F, G, H, etc.
As I mentioned earlier, Eric, that will be a continuation for the next couple years. We started in the porch, as I said, the dining room, the first 6 sections of the clubhouse, and that will continue until we get rid of all the old monitors. Hopefully within the next 2 to 3 years, the entire facility will be complete with HD TVs.
Okay, so now we're going to leave TV, but we're going to stick with technology and ask, can we improve the quality of the Wi-Fi here at Saratoga?
We absolutely can, and we will. Each year after the meet, we look at the facility and the logs on the usage, and what that helps us identify are dead zones or zones where there's a lot of demand. So what we do each year, we add capacity, we move some antennas, we add some, and going forward, we're going to invest heavily in this as it's going to be more and more important because we're going to start pushing video through it. The demand is not going to go down, it's going to go up. So the answer to that question is yes, absolutely. We will improve that going forward.
Actually, your system has deteriorated in the last couple of years. I'm on my computer betting, and it goes off. And the NYRA goes off. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You get a heavy crowd. You're going to make some bets. You can't make the bets. You guys are the losers.
Right.
And the better. So that would be the number one priority.
I agree, and the demand per cap is actually going up, so you're right. It is more and more people are using it, so the amount of data being pushed to that system has gone up exponentially.
And I know a lot of people who aren't necessarily betting through it are also using the Wi-Fi to research the bets that they might be placing through the windows. It's such a data-driven sport and a wonderful fit for the internet. Okay, what renovations, upgrades, and/or improvements are planned for the picnic area, paddock, viewing apron, and at the ends of the grandstand and clubhouse? Glenn?
As I mentioned earlier, with what we're doing in the backyard, currently we add 50 or 100 picnic tables per year. We will continue to do that and probably ramp that up a little bit more even for next year just because of the demand. As well as we tested flat screen televisions in the underneath the awnings or the little mushrooms as we call them in the backyard. So that will continue. As far as the clubhouse and the grandstand, at this point, I'm sure Chris can elaborate on where we'll go with that in the future. But at this point, as you've noticed, including the television trucks that have been relocated, we're trying to open the facility back up. There's more activities down in that area with the beer garden that's there. Also the activity tent, that area has grown now that the TV trucks have been relocated from the carousel. So we have tried to bring the building back to where the patrons can enjoy it and get part of our operations out of there and put them back in the parking lot to free up space.
Okay, I'm going to combine 2 questions because they go hand in hand or they're similar. First part of it is, when are you planning to release work for building improvements in Saratoga? And I'm going to ask another question slightly out of order here. Do you plan to enlarge the clubhouse? So again, the 2 questions are, when are you planning to release work for building improvements in Saratoga? And are we planning to enlarge in any way the clubhouse?
You know, I am going to look at those plans very carefully. Number one, as many of you have heard, I started July 1st and had a few days in New York, but that was about it. And I had a chance to enjoy this meet immensely. But I look around, and your comment, sir, is right on target. And the question raised by someone else about the sound system, right on target. So although there may have been plans to do certain types of work, a building here or there, I want to make sure that our building that we have operates to its highest and maximum use. And if we're not getting Wi-Fi to every area, if our sound system is cutting out, those are things that may not have been on the list for work to be done, and I want to take a good, hard look at that list once the meet is over, and then we'll be able to figure out when we can release work. And it also kind of dovetails into the idea of the clubhouse. You know, clearly the clubhouse has got some great attributes to it, and the question is going to be, well, how much money do we put into things like a better sound system or Wi-Fi and maybe other priorities? And what does that leave us in the way of funds for certain activities within the clubhouse?
Okay, now we're going to get, we have a facilities question on a more granular, less lofty level. When will NYRA improve the lavatory situation at the track?
You know, I mean, that kind of goes hand in hand with what I just said, that we'll look at that. I mean, what do we need to do to upgrade the facilities we have, and then as opposed to going after something new? So I guess the best answer I can give all of you is the same answer that our chairman of the board gave to the Wall Street Journal. Everything's on the table, and we'll look to see what makes the most sense, but we are certainly motivated to enhancing the guest experience, and more modern lavatories certainly would fall in that category.
Okay, this question must have come in Sunday, because it says, yesterday's Travers was an uncomfortable experience for the regulars. Can I make some suggestions for improvements, starting with enforcing the fire lanes and limiting large wheeled coolers to the backyard? Glenn?
Excuse me. And I think, Eric, as far as the fire lanes, obviously with the crowd that we had of 40,000 plus on Saturday, it was a spectacular day. Fire lanes out on the clubhouse apron and also the grandstand are set up so that way either vendors or picnic tables or benches aren't impeding any emergency vehicles to get onto the apron. Those areas are accessible for patrons to use to view the races, but there can't be anything placed on them that would impede a vehicle. One of the other guests came up today and mentioned something about the area near the paddock and the walking ring, about putting another lane similar to what the jockeys have coming from the clubhouse back to the jocks room leading to the paddock, because owners and trainers had a difficult time getting over to the facility on Saturday. So those are all things that we can certainly look at doing, but as far as the fire lane, that's marked specifically for emergency vehicles, but there were no things that impeded or that would allow people not to view the races.
Glenn, with all due respect, that was my question, and
Oh.
it was my 26th Travers, and that was my worst Travers, and all the folks with me, also regular players and owners that sit in that section, which is G. By the second race, the benches, where I always keep some seats available for them, I'm always the last row, there were two sets of chairs behind those rows. The people with the big, huge coolers, the crazy kids came in. They set them up in the aisles between the bench areas. They were standing on them, and by the fifth or sixth race, there was just no room to move. It was like it was incredibly congested. And I asked some of the security people if they could do something about the fire lanes. It was too late. On the backstretch this morning, I saw a couple of fire people with the white shirts of fire folks, and they said, there weren't enough of us over there, and by the time we found out about it, it was too late. The apron area was a mess, and so my thoughts with the solutions would be keep the big coolers out in the backyard. The handheld coolers, the ones we bring it over our shoulders with the Saratoga giveaways you had for the many years, and that's fine. But the big ones that they stand on a wheel and they obstructed aisles getting in and out, it was a mess, and it just was no fun.
No, and that's
It was a beautiful day, a big crowd. It's been a great meet, but that one issue turned it to a sour day for our people in that area.
Absolutely, and that's a great suggestion, and one of the nice things about Saratoga is being able to bring those coolers into the backyard and enjoy them in the backyard. So it's certainly something we can take into consideration, because it does make sense. We did have the state fire marshal here as well, going through areas where you're mentioning as well, where people were just blocking their chairs on the entrances. So you did have egress coming in and out of the building, but the coolers. Yep, I understand. Absolutely. Well, thank you for the,
But we'll learn for next year. I mean, I was walking around in the apron area, and I was walking behind a river. Some guy was draining his cooler as he was walking. I said, "What are you doing?"
That's usually after the last race.
Yeah, well, it wasn't. Yeah, but no, thank you for that. And we'll take some steps next year. This year, for example, we tried something new for the travelers. We put up signs a few days beforehand to let people know in the parking lots, don't bring bottles in. Leave them there in your car. And so each year, we're going to get better at executing to the point where we're doing really well. And thank you for that suggestion.
Bottles have been off limits for a long, long time. But it's this,
Yeah. Well, so the reason I mention that is because people still were bringing them. Yeah. So now we're going to have a situation where we're going to educate the public in various ways about the utilization and placement of those large coolers.
the friendly security has been good, and if they can just be a little better, it'd be a whole lot better help for that big day.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now there's been a lot of attention on Oklahoma. With access to Oklahoma now reopened to the public with the addition of the new viewing stand, is there a plan to continue to allow public access after the racing season ends and continuing until the training period at Oklahoma ends this fall, and when it resumes again in the spring, it would reopen? And if not, why not?
I think there will be a plan. And the answer is we will have a plan. We don't have it yet because, again, we're looking at all the data. Somebody may say, well, let's open it up every day. Well, I don't think it's going to make sense to open it up every day. We've been collecting data since it opened on a quarter-hour basis to have an understanding of how many people are there. And the fact of the matter is that only on the weekends do people come over there during the meet. So when we don't have the meet, when do we reasonably think people will show up? So we're going to develop a plan, and in all likelihood, we'll start on the weekends and see what happens. But we have to remember that these things are not free. We have to have security when we invite the public to this area because there are a number of stalls nearby, and we need to make sure that our people are safe and our animals are safe and the barns are safe. So we will come up with a plan. It'll probably start on the weekends, and we'll see how it goes.
And Chris, you provided a perfect segue for the next question. With public parking at the Oklahoma track, morning backstretch tours, and of course the new Whitney viewing stand, why does NYRA not require ID badges to be displayed while in the barn areas?
excuse me, Eric, as far as the tour that goes from the clubhouse and goes to the starting gate and Clare Court, where guests can learn a little bit about the horses and what takes place on a daily basis in the starting gate, they're with the NYRA personnel that also provides the transportation to and from that area. As far as parking, anybody knows that's parked on Oklahoma is also aware of the restricted area signs and security that is located near the stalls. Unfortunately, our parking isn't convenient to the building in all areas, and are substantial walks or where there are shuttle buses that come along Horsehaven to bring patrons or guests over to the facility. So as far as having badges or having identification, there are areas that are designated for authorized access only, and the signage is available.
Okay, now we're going to shift gears a little bit and look maybe more at betting-related questions or racing-related. Are there sanctions imposed on trainers who fail to provide information such as new gelding in time for publication in overnights or in track programs, daily racing form, etc.? If so, what are they? And if no, why not?
So the simple answer is no, there's no sanctions. If the stewards feel that there's a need to have a sanction, depending on the infraction, they'll fine the trainer. But as far as the gelding situation, the trainer has the opportunity at entry time to declare if the horse is a new gelding. If that doesn't happen, when the vets are on their pre-race exams in the morning, they obviously have to check to make sure it's the right horse. They check the tattoo, they check the sex of the horse. And at that time, if it is found to be new gelding from its last start, from when previously raced at NYRA, that's when the information goes out before the betting starts, goes on the scroll, goes on the internet. The problem that we face is that besides California that I'm aware of, there's no other jurisdiction that keeps tracks of geldings. So we could have a horse come into New York for the first time, we find it has a gelding, we have no idea when it was gelded. So for us, that's a problem when horses come in from out of town.
That's my question, the question I've asked for a number of years now, and I understand your answer, PJ. My question or my issue is, Mr. K, you know, you're at Toys R Us. If I bought the package, I bought a product from Toys R Us, or I opened it up, it wasn't what I bought. I mean, I may be betting on a horse through OTB or early in the day, and I'm betting on the fact that it's a horse, and then it's not. It's a gelding. That's an equipment change in my language, and to me, it's their responsibility to get that information to you, and sometimes to me it's almost like a prospectus, if you will. The advertising form and the overnights are supposed to be as accurate as possible.
Right.
That's the first thing. And so I would make this suggestion, in my world, you know, what gets noticed sort of gets acted upon, and if a horse, if you don't get the information in time, let them run for purse money. Because I know that if you guys lose betting interest often enough, that information will get to you on time. But I think it's a disservice to the bettor to say that, one, no other jurisdiction does it, therefore why, we don't have to, or why should we? And two, it's their obligation, and if somebody's shipping in, and they know they better have the information if they want to run, then you guys will get that information, because your purse structure is the best in the country.
First, I didn't say it wasn't our responsibility, because that's number one.
Sorry.
Okay.
Please, PJ.
Two, it's a little more complex than you're making it to sound. So when a horse is raced at 3 different racetracks, he might have changed trainers 3 different times. That trainer, the current trainer, might not know if the horse was gelded 5 starts ago, 10 starts ago, 15 starts ago. Now he's racing in New York for and I'm just giving you an example because it's happened. If he races in New York for the first time, no one's going to have the correct information. So now we're giving out false information, which we don't want to do. So it is a little bit of a complexity with the problem. And again, the only jurisdiction that I know is that fines trainers, from what you're talking about, the gelding situation, is California. Again, it's something that we need to take a deeper dive on. But at the end of the day, I don't want to give out bad information. We make sure we give out correct information.
Thank you very much, sir.
And we do make sure we give out that correct information as soon as we can.
And it goes, I know what you're saying, but it goes out before wagering starts when the changes are made.
Okay.